views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Social Justice Forums. I'm Daren Jaime. If you're asking a question, what are the Social Justice Forums about? Well, we're a show that takes a look at the inequities that a lot of people face. We talk about different points of view. We also promote civic engagement, and we bring awareness through some very exciting guests. We encourage you to stay connected to us because guess what? The Social Justice Forums begins right now. Welcome back. Gentrification involves the transformation of underinvested, predominantly poor communities from low value to high value. During this transformation, longtime businesses and residents are also displaced and unable to afford higher rents, mortgages, as well as property taxes. Our first guest is an expert on gentrification and economics, offering updated strategies and solutions with the release of his book, Monetizing Gentrification, Building Black Ownership. We're pleased to have joining us here on the Social Justice Forums, real estate and land developer, as well as author, Thomas T.J. Loftin. And Thomas, T.J., glad to have you here on the show.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
And I guess it's a conversation that's being had across the nation as we see more and more areas. When we look here, particularly in New York City, we can see gentrification right at the roots. We can look at Brooklyn, we can look at the Bronx, we can look at New York City. My Harlem that I grew up in no longer looks like what it once looked like. And while there is definitely an argument that needs to be made that neighborhoods need to be improved, the method and the manner in which this improvement goes on is sometimes negligent. So talk to us about gentrification and how you see it playing out in America today.
Well, I see the large corporations deciding to move home ownership for the underage, undervalued people who don't make enough money. You know, people who can't afford anything below $1 million. They're removing home ownership and converting it into rental. So they want everyone to just completely forget about owning anything and just become lifelong renters. So that's what's going on as a national thing happening around the country. I see that rising prices. I see people buying houses for unbelievable amounts of money. Corporations are buying everything up and they're pulling back the loans for your average people. And it's very difficult for for people to purchase homes. So that's the new model they're using. And that's why I tell people it's time to buy something. So we got to be thinking about our children and grandchildren. You know, if we're dealing with this today, what are they going to be dealing with tomorrow? So what we do today really matters for the youth tomorrow.
So you decided to write a book talking about monetizing gentrification and how to really make gentrification work for those persons who are really going to be adversely affected. So what was behind your writing of this book?
As I traveled the country, I did 24 states, and I noticed that, you know, whenever we have a lot of corporations moving, like because of sanctions, because of the tariffs, so these corporations are relocating all around the country, and everywhere they go, the real estate quadruples and blows up. So I started purchasing homes and land all around the country, and a lot of people were looking at me crazy, telling me about why they thought that was a bad idea. So I decided to write a book so that they could understand what I was doing and why I was doing it, because I realized most of us was never taught real estate. We were never taught about a good investment. We were never taught about when corporations start expanding, what happens to the wealth? How does the wealth move around? So that's what made me write my book.
Well, when you look at us in the African-American community, we know that if you're in a poor, underserved, economically impoverished community, it's kind of hard to get those boots on the ground and to really make that transition. So people who are watching right now and they're watching in their own community saying, listen, I'm seeing what's happening around us. What are some of the first steps that a person can really get engaged in to try to turn this thing around for them?
First of all, we got to learn that land is valuable. So we got to learn to appreciate our own communities, because the African-American communities are the most valuable. They're the most affordable. You know, a lot of people say, most people try to buy things in their immediate area or their dream area, but we really should be looking outside of those areas for the large parcels of land where the corporations are trying to move to. So when you travel around the country, you'll see that these prices are very affordable for your average person who's possibly even on Section 8. I bought parcels of land for $500, $1,000, and I financed some of them. because most people believe they don't have value in them. So when no one's buying land, it's easier to acquire, and they'll allow you to make payments on it.
So I think some people say, listen, okay, I can do the purchase price, I can get the land, but then the question is really having the capital to be able to turn it around. You've been a master of being able to do this. You go around on speaking tours and you're involved in really a lot of this development. Talk to us about how do you get to that place from purchase to actually development, which sometimes can be the greatest mind thing to get around for a lot of people in terms of making that turn.
Well, it's much easier than we think about. I mean, like I said, you got people go to school for 4 years to learn how to do certain things. All you got to do is take one of my training classes that'll take you every bit of 8 hours or 10 hours. And it's that simple. I can show you how it all works. But you don't necessarily need good credit to build a house. You need good credit to buy a house, but because it's cheaper to build a house, you don't need credit. So I can teach you that how it all works from the start to finish, and you'd be surprised how easy it is.
So for something that's so easy, and a lot of people sometimes just miss the boat on, are you finding more and more people getting involved in real estate now, particularly with the economy the way that it is?
Absolutely. We realized a long time ago that most people don't qualify. When the housing prices started hitting 300, 400,000 nationally, I found a lot of people start seeking alternative ways, and they started paying more attention to the words that was coming out of my mouth, which was land development, buy land, build your own home, live in your RV while you're building your own home. Pay your home will be paid cash for. So I'm excited. Unfortunately, it's pretty bad about what's been happening since 2020, but it's actually been exciting for me because a lot of people woke up. So they've been attending my classes and workshops and buying my books and reading more about the things that I'm saying, all because they can't afford it anymore. They can't afford to go buy a home at $500,000. So now they're learning to build. It's time to build now.
I want to talk to you for a minute about one of your inspirations in terms of turning things around, and that's Dr. Sebi. Many of us know that he was prolific in the area of nutrition, trying to help those, particularly in communities of color, to eat healthy, eat right, promoting longer life. But he had an interesting development in your life. Talk to us about that.
Well, Dr. Sebi understood exactly who I am. I'm a guy that came from an emerging industry. I helped to pioneer the lowriding world, so I understand manufacturing. I understand creating whole communities because I was able to give a lot of my friends jobs. So Dr. Sebi had a lot of things that he wanted to do. So like he knew about hemp. We can build houses with hemp. We can make brick out of hemp. So he had the plant-based diet. He had the Dr. Sebi food list. He told us what to eat, what not to eat. But when he met me, I noticed that because I was the president of Leimert Park Vendors. He told me, I was telling him that people were stealing my people's meals, these plant-based meals that they were coming up with, making French fries out of different things, making all type of foods out of different things that are plant-based. And that created the opportunity to open up chains of restaurants. So we had big chains coming into our Leimert Park, stealing intellectual property from people sitting there on a car table. So you had big giant chains that own 5,000 stores around the country, sending their representatives into this little park called Leimert Park in Los Angeles, stealing the intellectual property, asking all the wrong questions of these vendors of what exactly did you use in this? How much sea salt did you use? What do you use to replace this? And I realized, I said, they're stealing your ideas. You can't tell these people these answers to these questions. Well, that's all of these people were Dr. Sebi's students. And Dr. Sebi spawned a whole new thing, and that's what he wanted me to help him push. And he knew I was the best that can do that.
And so you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing, and people are actually joining the movement. I mean, you've worked with celebrities and you've been involved in with boots on the ground. You're out there in California turning things around. For you, what was it like in really terms of selling this to our people? And I don't want to use the word selling it, but really informing people, because, promoting awareness is what this show is about. We want to promote awareness. We want to also promote solutions. But sometimes, when you go into communities and you're providing a solution, there's a resistance there. What were the things for you in terms of breaking down that resistance and getting that buy-in from people within our very own communities?
No, it was actually interesting because I came in explaining to people the opportunities to create wealth. But what I didn't realize was good information is an attack on the college life. So I didn't realize that I was going to be attacked by college people trying to defend themselves, because they're telling the world that college is the best thing to go to, and hey, getting a good job is the best thing because you'll have something to fall back onto. Well, I'm like, well, that's not necessarily how it works over here. Over here, you're creating an emerging industry. You'll be a multi-millionaire in a matter of years. You'll end up a billionaire with a chain of restaurants. So that language wasn't that well received as it like I thought it would be. It was kind of like debating religion, or I didn't realize coming with great information was going to be such a challenge. And I'm like, I have proof. Look at all these people. They're making money. This person started a restaurant and someone stole the idea. Now they have 14 restaurants just like this person that looks like us. So it was quite the challenge, but I've been quite successful lately. Now, it took something bad to happen before people started waking up. When the masses of people were forced to stay home and a lot of people lost their jobs, or the rest of them were told, hey, you're going to have to take a job to come back to work. A lot of people said, well, let me look up that crazy guy. Let me look up that TJ guy, and it actually been working. So sometimes bad things make great things happen.
So for somebody who wants to get started, obviously getting connected to your course and your teaching is one thing, but give us some tools for some people who are saying right now, listen, this sounds like I need to really be involved. I really need to try to make this change within my own life and with my own community. How do I get started?
Well, what we need to start doing is when people say, oh, I don't have any money, I can't afford your class, or I can't afford to buy a house right now. Those are the people, I tell people all the time, learn the trades, because if you learn you can go to YouTube. I call it my YouTube university that I graduated from, or Google and type in how to hang a ceiling fan. Well, people are paying $150 and up to hang one ceiling fan, where your average home has at least 8 ceiling fans that need to be hanged in a new home, or a house that's being updated. So if you go on YouTube and learn how to do these small things, next thing you know, you'll be creating thousands of dollars weekly by hanging ceiling fans. Here in Georgia, I'm in Georgia now. I've relocated to Georgia because there's more of us here that needed my help. So I realized they got people that look like us that learned how to hang a ceiling fan from YouTube, and now they have an account with major hotels putting up 16,000 ceiling fans in hotels for the next 5 years, making millions of dollars off of these contracts. Where I've never seen Black people in Los Angeles getting contracts hanging ceiling fans. That never even came up. I never heard of stuff like that until I came to the South.
So talk about where you are right now and what you're doing and how people can be connected.
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia currently. My office is in Marietta, Georgia. And I can be reached at Thomas TJ Loftin, Loftin, Thomas TJ Loftin, or tjloftin.com. What I've been doing here in Atlanta, I've sponsored several homeschools, because these were the people, the community of people that accepted me and said, come on, we're willing to learn that because we want to help these people today. We want our 10-year-olds to go home and make some money today because their parents need help. So I've sponsored these schools. I've been taking them on field trips. I bought a bunch of toolboxes. I've been giving them toolboxes, and we sit there and learn how to hang doors, hang ceiling fans, do granite countertops, things that they can go home and make large amounts of money today at 10 years old. So that's what I've been doing. I've been focusing more on the schools and more on speaking and doing my training classes, showing people how to buy land. But also I can be reached at area code 310-619-3954. Again, 310-619-3954 if you're interested in booking me to come out and speak or do panel discussions, or you're interested in taking one of my training classes, et cetera, Zoom classes, et cetera.
So you start them young. And what's been the response of young people who are really exposed to this? Because we know exposure is key. Many times kids are involved in sports and music and things like that. But when it comes to economic empowerment, what's the receptivity like amongst our youth?
It's absolutely amazing. I just posted a video of me sitting in the class talking about patent. Me in the class with a bunch of they were like 4 years old all the way up till maybe 13, and we were talking about patents, trademarks, and copyrights, and intellectual properties, and NDAs, and the teachers were absolutely amazed that these young people got it. They got it. I was like, what's the difference between the copyright? What can I copyright? Oh, what can I do? What do I use my patent for? And they were answering all the questions. They knew, they understood. Oh, well, we're going to have to file a lawsuit. They loved it because this was different. I wasn't talking about getting a good job. I was saying, if you learn how to hang this light, I showed them how to hang a light recently. I said, if you learn how to hang this light, you can go home and charge your mom $25. And that's a lot of money for a young person. Most young people got needs and wants, and their parents say, you don't need that. But now when they turn around and they say, well, I'm gonna go next door and I'm gonna go hang that light for that lady. I'm gonna go put that picture on the wall for that lady because I know how to do that. Now mom's like, oh, like, okay, go ahead. So they need to make money, and the parents feel like, wow, that's an opportunity where we tell 10-year-olds, wait till you go to college and get you a good degree, then you can go out and get a job. Well, they're like, well, that's 12 years away. They want to make money at 10. You know, they need money now because mama's like, no, you don't need those shoes. You don't need this. You don't need that. But what mama really means is, I can't afford that. That's what she really wants to say. So now that the child has an opportunity to make his or her own money, mama's all for it. Mom's like, let me call some friends. You know, my homegirl got things, you know?
Yeah. Less out of pocket that we can spend, less coming out of for us in terms of spending on them. They're earning their own at an early age. Thomas T.J. Loftin, want to let you know it's been a pleasure having you here. Got to come back, brother, because we love to talk more about the work that you're doing and maybe even meet some of those young people that you're working with and let them inspire somebody else as well.
Problem. Sounds good to me. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, Thomas T.J. Loftin, our guest here on the Social Justice Forums. I want you to stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. We got more show. Thomas has already told you how you can get connected with him. You saw the information at the bottom of your screen. Hopefully you'll take advantage and know more. Coming up, we're going to meet somebody else who's an inspiration doing work in the area of hotels. That and more here on the Social Justice Forums.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at BronxNet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
Welcome back. The Media Line is an independent, not-for-profit American news agency that's actually covering news in the Middle East and throughout the world. As one of the first contextual American news sources established almost 20 years ago, they've opened the gateway to coverage of the region through their team of seasoned journalists. We're pleased to have joining us now all the way from Jerusalem, the Media Line News Agency's president and CEO, Felice Friedson. Felice, glad to have you here on the Social Justice Forums.
You're welcome. And it's snowing here, and not a usual sight, but glad to be here and hope we don't get interrupted through the internet lines.
Well, we're hoping that the internet can stay through for this segment, and certainly we want to have you and talk a little bit about the work. Now, this agency, 20 years old, talk to us about how this all got started.
It is, and it's quite exciting because when we began, nonprofit news you heard of in mass. And today there are really hundreds of organizations, some involved in direct news, some involved in elements that are tied to news. But I have to say that we really were pioneers in this industry in really reshaping the fact that news can be nonprofit. And maybe the reason we're still here over 20 years later is that it is nonprofit, considering so many news agencies, newspapers have gone under.
Yeah. So give us a little bit about this, because you have a great job in covering the Middle East. It's a news agency that's really geared to that. And we know about, tensions. We know about all those things that are going on. But really to be able to concentrate on the Middle East, give us a little bit about the groundwork and what you're aiming to accomplish through your media agency.
The most important element here is context. That most people look at news and they look at it in the lens of the narrative they want to hear. Journalism was created to be able to give all narratives, to tell all sides, to get on the street and dive in and understand what's happening, whether it's Israel, the Palestinian territories, if you're heading out to Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Pakistan, Iran, the list goes on. And I think it's imperative, and that's something that we have done story by story, journalist by journalist, and I really applaud the brave journalists that have worked with us all these years in telling and shaping these stories. Where we differ is that we're not about getting the story out first per se. We're really about sourcing and really about being on the ground and understanding what's happening. You see so little of that. Everybody is racing to get that Twitter tweet. Everyone is racing to say, I'm going to get the algorithm we need. But if you look at why journalism was created, it was created to be a checks and balances on government, to be able to educate public, media, and of course, government alike. And I'm proud to say that over 20 years later, we're really doing this. It's not an easy task, but it is so important. Tens of thousands of stories that we've told throughout the region, the local, global, local, and that's really the gist of it. Separate from that, by the way, Daren, we train the next generation of students. We are so proud of our press and policy student program. We have over 16 universities that are actually signed agreements with the Media Line where students have come to Jerusalem to train. We've had students that we've trained both also in the Palestinian territories, in Israel, in Gaza, and beyond. We've trained students from some of the leading universities in the United States, and they're still coming despite COVID.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk for a minute about the Middle East, because we talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We spend a lot of time in, mainstream news really just conflict, and I enjoy this conversation right now because we have an opportunity to talk about some things that maybe everybody else isn't talking about. So when we talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, maybe give us some insight as to what maybe we're missing because we're spending so much time focusing on the main headline.
I think that everybody kind of at a point looks at the news and they think that things sort of stay the same. They don't understand that it's ever changing, ever moving. And that is the point, because you need to look at the good stories that are happening in Israel, the tough stories that are happening in Israel, the same with the Palestinian territories. So if you look at the Israeli-Palestinian issues, you have to separate the great Israel stories that are happening every day, the Israel politics, the Palestinian politics, the Palestinian good stories and bad stories, and then what happens between the two nations, where many of them, those stories come together because Israel and the Palestinian territories are connected at the hip in terms of all of the economy. That is the real truth in terms of what happens on a day-to-day basis. So despite the conflict, there is interaction between Israelis and Palestinians, because otherwise the Palestinians would not have the electricity that they use. They would not have many of the things that are necessary to help them to sustain what goes on a day-to-day basis. Having said that, in the last few years, and I'd say probably more closer to a decade, things have gone, I'd say, have been pushed back, where you don't see the great rapport that had been years back, where maybe there might have been a solution, maybe not, between the Israelis and Palestinians. Many look at the fact that Abbas, President Abbas is an elder statesman. Some people complain that maybe he's not the right partner. Some say he is the right partner. Some feel that he might step down. He might hand over the reins to someone that I actually interviewed, which was Minister Hassan al-Sheikh, who people are eyeing. I think that you have to really see politically, internally what's happening, but you also have to understand that despite that, Israel, and I think the United States is pushing this too right now, to really enhance the economic cooperation between the Israelis and Palestinians in a broader way. So you're seeing more permits being given to Palestinians again to help to work in Israel. And this is something that has always been, but they're trying to increase that many times fold. You're seeing some on the ground money put in by the United States government to help to increase all kinds of small businesses, and particularly in the technology areas as well.
So what is your take when we talk about the United States? We know the United States is into reversing some of what it's called the quote unquote unlawful policies out there in Israel. We're under a new presidential administration, 1 year old, but talk to us about the transition between the Trump administration, the Biden administration, and how Israel is viewing this change of power here in the United States. Have they viewed it as a good move? Has they viewed it as a bad move?
I'm actually hearing a lot of indifference. I think a lot of people think that not a lot moved between the Israelis and Palestinians during the Trump administration. Not to say that they didn't try. I think you also have pushback where you saw the Abraham Accords take center stage, and the Palestinians didn't necessarily play ball when it came to that. And the Trump administration did try to embrace the Palestinians in some form, and the Palestinians would say, well, you're really not coming to the table in terms of what our terms are as well. So there were many issues that people don't see that go on behind the scenes. In terms of President Biden's administration, they are trying, I think, also now in a quiet way, and some of them you see publicly, and some meetings you don't see publicly, where you have both United States officials, the new ambassador who is going also and meeting with the Palestinians and meeting with locals to try to see what they can do. But I think it's more on the economic level. I don't see it so much in terms of the bringing together of the parties on a political level yet either. There are so many other issues that are important right now. And I still think, unfortunately, that the Israeli-Palestinian issue still takes a back seat to them. When you're dealing with Iran and dealing with Syria, dealing with, is there going to be a war right now in terms of Ukraine and Russia? And everybody's eyeing that at the moment. So this big elephant in the room is going to remain the elephant in the room for quite a while. And that's why I refer to the economics that still needs to be bumped up. You don't have a state without economy. And if the Palestinian people themselves can't build on the ground the infrastructure for a state, it won't sustain either. And that's something that I personally saw the hundreds and hundreds of stories over the years that I've done in covering both the Israeli and Palestinian sides, that yes, in some ways things haven't changed at all.
Mm-hmm. Let me talk about what we should be paying attention to. I talked to you before about being in mainstream media. We do a good job of chasing the headlines. As you said, the Twitters, the the clicks, the likes, what's going to actually attract attention and bring people to a media outlet simply by focusing on the headlines or the things that people may want to hear. But behind the scenes, and I'm grateful that we have organizations such as yourself that really can be entrenched in other stories that maybe we're not paying attention to. So as we're looking in 2022, what are some of the things that we should be paying attention to that maybe mainstream is not?
I'm going to start with something called journalism. It may sound boring, but I think it's really important,
It's
Daren.
real. It's real. Right.
First of all, who even knows what journalism is? If you go out on the street and ask a bunch of people, what are they going to tell you? It's a blog, it's Twitter, it's Instagram, TikTok. What's next? I actually believe that everything is cyclical. So if you want to look at the stories, you're going to look at the things that are happening on the street, the human interest stories that really ring true. If you look at our site, they're often about the Afghani woman and what's happening to her and what her plight was, or the unsung women we're writing about for Holocaust Memorial Day. So many stories that just don't get out there. And that's what's critical. You know, I went to Yemen and it was a month before the revolution. And there was a woman who was running a newspaper in English. Who knew? You know, we were writing stories that were picked up in her paper. These are the kinds of stories that are bold and hold. The woman that I'm interviewing in a few weeks, who I know was Palestinian, a famous doctor, and decided to teach in McGill in Canada. Well, you know what? That's interesting. Why are they leaving the Palestinian territories? Because they didn't get work? What's the real reason? In our policy, press and policy student program right now. And one of the stories she's doing, and it's something she's doing as a reporter's notebook, is she's teaching Hebrew to Arab women in East Jerusalem. And she found out some very interesting things. I'm not going to give it away. I think you got to go to the medialines.org and read it, but that's the example. We have to go back to long form journalism, and we got to teach the world why journalism was created before we lose it. And I think that that is core to everything that should happen this year.
When you talk about your press and policy program, for those that don't know, you do a great job of actually training journalists around the world, in the Middle East, in the United States, really getting them acclimated to, covering the Middle East, and at the same time, what journalism is really all about. So when you're talking to your students and you're educating them about what this journalism thing is all about, what are some of the things that you really want to drive home to them? Because one of the things that we've lost, and I can say, I've been in the business and I'm dating myself for 30 years. One of the things that's lost in all of this has been objectivity.
We use the word complete. Everyone has a bias. The most important thing that people can learn, first of all, you have to have the passion. If you don't even go into this field. But you have to be persistent and patient. You have to learn how to vet sources. You have to learn how to love your job, that you have to love to write that story so people will understand the context of what's happening and explaining the background of a story. Don't assume the reader understands it. They don't. And understand what the audience is looking to understand, because often it's not about me. It's about what you want to understand. So it's really combining all these elements that are very, very key to telling a story. Don't forget that we have to also be fair to the different voices. It's not about my opinion. If I want to write an opinion piece, I'm going to say it's an opinion piece. Too often we're going to places where all we see is either unnamed sources or opinions. And it's not about your opinion. It's really about telling the stories that shape our lives, and we can make a difference by doing that every single day.
So before we go, let me get an opportunity for our viewers to have an opportunity to really tap into the work that you're doing. If somebody over here in the United States says, hey, this really sounds intriguing, I really need to get another source and a credible source for news and to find out my information, of course, how do they get connected and what will they be able to find?
Well, if they go to the medialine.org, we're not completely open source. We're a nonprofit. We have to try to make some money somehow. So some of our content is closed, but a lot of it the last few years is open source where people can get information regularly. We also have video content and audio content. So we're multimedia. And we are a news wire, so we're servicing other media outlets, and media outlets can contract with us for our content. So they're able to find the content there. There's a newsletter to sign up for. So if they go to themedialine.org, don't forget themedialine.org, they can get to a lot of news on a regular basis. And we're happy to hear from the public at large on any of these things. It's something that we appreciate doing on a regular basis. And Daren, be great to have you come and join as well. And maybe you'd be interested in helping with our press and policy student program too.
Absolutely. I would love to, and I want to, and I'm saying it on air. So definitely count me in. Would love to definitely be a part. And I think that we also can be would love to have you on some of our other platforms and maybe some of your journalists to be able to share in a television format. So we can definitely talk about doing that and want to do that. And Felice, want to thank you for being with us. I am glad that the internet connection held up throughout the course of the snow and that we were able to actually get this interview and be able to talk to you. So thank you much, and you got to come back.
Thank you, Daren. Nice to be here.
All righty. Well, we want to let you know, Felice Friedson, our guest here, she is the president and CEO of the Media Line News Agency. The information was at the bottom of the screen. Hope that you tap in and find out more information. We got to take a quick break, but we do have more here on the Social Justice Forums. You're going to hear how a young lady has transformed her life and the life of so many others by buying hotels. We'll talk about that in a minute.
When taking public transportation, don't touch your phone. Carry hand sanitizer and use it immediately upon leaving the bus or train. Avoid touching your face. If someone is coughing or sneezing, move away. Wash your hands with soap and water as soon as possible. Limit contact with poles. If possible, avoid rush hour. Don't eat or drink on public transportation. Keep your bag off the floor or other surfaces. Avoid directly touching turnstiles. Stay up to date with the latest from your local health department and CDC.
And welcome back. Our next guest capitalizes on over 14 years of experience in the lodging industry to teach African Americans how to become hotel investors as well as owners. Now with a passion for people, she makes hotel ownership real as well as relatable through educational training and programmatic resources, spotlighting each step in the hotel acquisition process, leaning into sustainable success strategies. Joining us now to discuss more is the founder of the Vonne Group, Davonne Reaves. And Davonne, thank you for being with us here on the Social Justice Forums.
Thank you for having me. I so appreciate you, Daren.
Yeah, well, I think your story is inspiring. We talk about really the pathway during African American History Month to success, and it comes through hard work. And for yourself, you are a young millennial hotel owner, and just share with us a little bit about your journey.
Sure, absolutely. Again, my name is Davonne Reaves. I am the president and founder of the Vonne Group. We are a hotel consulting and hotel investment firm, and I've been in the industry actually over 15 years now. And I got my start off as a front desk agent at the Hyatt Regency Atlanta. And I moved over into corporate. That's where I really learned about hotel ownership through asset management. And in 2017, I founded the Vonne Group. And my goal has always been to increase the percentage of African-American hotel owners and investors.
And when we talk about the work that you've done, obviously going from the front desk to now ownership, not an easy task, but for you, it was something that you wanted to accomplish. So talk to us about when you really found out for yourself, listen, I don't just want to do the front desk. I want to be the owner here.
Oh, goodness. You know what? When I was around other people who were in my same age group, and they were Indian, and they were white. Some of them were white, some were Indian. They inherited hotels. That was ownership was the norm in their family. And, you know, when I was a part of different organizations and they talked about that they own hotels and how they're looking to expand their portfolio, I'm like, wait a minute, we're the same age. If you can do it, I can do it. And I didn't think it was possible until I started to change my surroundings and started to change my circle.
Yeah, but talk to us for a minute, because the first thing somebody's going to say is when it comes to owning a hotel, that's a huge feat. Got to have a lot of capital. How do I even cross the bar to do that? So talk to us about how you've helped people to actually understand the reality that you can actually invest in hotels and be owners.
That's a great question. A lot of people don't realize the options that are available to use to invest. Some folks, including my investors, they use their life insurance, they use retirement, some different ways and different vehicles that a lot of people don't know. And I didn't even know in the beginning when I got off of my journey. And so I always recommend for folks to talk to their financial advisors or really take a look at their personal financial statement to see if they can actually get into it and start networking, getting into the rooms and getting to the groups with hotel investors and hotel owners. But the first thing, before you even get there, you have to talk about mindset, right? Because who talks about hotel ownership and investing in hotels at the dinner table? I mean, when I was growing up, that was not a conversation at the dinner table. I don't know about you, Daren. I don't know if y'all was talking about, you know what, we gonna buy this hotel down the street so we can have our family reunion. That's just not what was discussed. And so the first thing that I always say is we have to wrap our brain around owning hotels, right? It's February is Black History Month. I always think Black History Month should be every day. But we were African Americans, we were the original Airbnbs. Owning hotels is not new to our community, right? Remember the Green Book, you know, during the Civil Rights Movement, even prior to the Civil Rights Movement, we only could stay at Black-owned hotels. So owning hotels is new, right? It was just a decline once integration happened and a lot of the Black-owned hotels were pretty much decimated or closed down, because once the businesses were integrated, we start going to other hotels outside of our culture. And so all I'm doing is just bringing back something. I'm not even reinventing the wheel, really. This is something that we've been doing for close to 200 years now. It's just creating that mindset and making it attainable and making it a reality that is something that we can do to pass generational wealth to our families.
Well, you're doing it. And not only are you doing it, you're inspiring others to do it. Presently, right now, you're the youngest Black woman to...
I'm not anymore.
No?
I've been dethroned. Yeah, one of my she has one of my mentees actually. She's
Well, that's good if you're gonna be dethroned, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm dethroned. It's okay. It's okay. She's 30. She got me. I remember when she was about to close on her hotel. I said, "You about to take my spot. Congratulations."
Well, listen, you were the first, so we got to give you props there. But what does that mean for you to be able to break that ceiling? Because we know that these are ceilings that look highly unattainable.
Yeah.
They don't look like us, but yet still to be an African American, a woman, a millennial, and then to be able to do that. What was that like for you being able to, get the keys and sign the deed and say, "Listen, I'm the owner here"?
It was a great feeling. It took a while for me to register and hit, that this happened. Because I guess I was so much in the weeds and doing the work and getting it done that I just didn't even wake up and really appreciate the moment. But it was when it happens when I meet the employees of the hotels, and I get to see firsthand the impact of the acquisition, how it's made on their life, and how, instead of creating a job, now I'm creating a career, because we're able to come in and stabilize and put systems in place where it allows them to grow and take their career to the next level and take their families to the next level. So something like that, it's rewarding, it's fulfilling, throughout the platform that I've created. When I've encountered so many people, so many Black people, so many women and children and college students, and just the encouragement, and how even people who even worked in the hotel industry, my mentors, the people who the shoulders who I stand on, and they never made it to the hotel ownership step. The fact that they're congratulating me, and the fact that they feel like that they can do it now. That's probably the best feeling. That's an indescribable feeling. It's a humble feeling. And I'm grateful that God has placed this purpose. And I don't say find your passion now, and I say find your purpose. And so I realized that this is my purpose, to help people expand their mind and diversify their real estate portfolio with hotels.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I didn't want to pass over the fact that we were joking, but when we talked about the fact you're not the youngest anymore, you said there's somebody that's 30, but this is somebody that you actually mentored. And I want to lean into that for a minute, because in addition to getting yourself there, you have consistently worked to help people, to put people on, to be able to get to a path of ownership. So talk to us about this particular young lady. Talk to us about the mentorship program that you have to help people, no matter what age you are, to actually say, if this is what you want to do, you can do it.
Yeah. Shout out to Kendra Plummer. I'm just so proud of her. She did this deal. She did it on her own, and she is the youngest. Her company is Elise Capital, and she is the youngest to date to co-own or to be a franchisee of a major hotel brand. So shout out to her. She actually has been in the hospitality industry. Her background comes from underwriting deals. So it just made sense. And her goal is, not only is her hotel Black owned, it's also Black managed, which is very rare. She has a management company, a third-party management company that comes in and manage the day-to-day operations. So shout out to Damon Smith. He's another Black male hotel owner. He's older than me, but he manages the day-to-day operations. And another client of mine, she actually just made some news. She is the first African-American and African-American woman that's actually going to, that's opening a container hotel. So she started her own brand. And so seeing people like that, seeing that they're creating their own path and creating their own wealth and opportunities for others is amazing. And I'm glad that I can be a part of it, even if it's just a little bit, or even if I just inspire somebody.
Well, I think you are doing some inspiration, a whole lot of inspiration, so much so that I know that you're putting all your career and how to really do this into a book, and that book should be coming out next month sometime.
Yes, it should be coming out next month. It's really, the name of it already, but it's How to Buy a Hotel, real simple, roadmap to hotel ownership. So I talk about the different pathways to hotel ownership, Also, what I'm doing with the pre-order experience, I'm having live webinars for the folks who actually pre-ordered the book. And so recently, the first webinar was with a good friend of mine who's another Black female hotel owner. Her name is Shannon Steele. Not only does she own a hotel, she also owns a bank. So we had a discussion and she shared her story, how she got into the hotel ownership world. I had a conversation with Andre Albrecht, and he's a REIT expert, because a lot of folks don't realize that you can actually invest in lodging REITs, which is a way of investing in hotels. And then Mike Ely, who's my business partner on the hotels, who I partnered with, he's going to talk about and share his secrets, how he analyzes hotel deals. So it's not even just, I'm big on education, I'm big on knowledge. So it's creating that experience and seeing the different ways and the creative ways and pathways to get to hotel ownership.
So what is next for you? I mean, you got the book out, you got your ownership portfolio that you're building and building out. What's next on your path?
I got a big project and I can't wait to share.
Ah,
it's huge. I'm telling you, it's huge, and you don't even see it coming. When you
really?
when you see it, you're gonna be like, "Oh wait, what?"
Yeah.
Coming.
I'd be like, she kind of.
The hotel though.
I told her she kind of talked about it here, but she didn't give me no exclusive. She didn't give me no Oprah, but it's all right. She let us know that it was coming.
We just got to do a redo for the exclusive. That's all.
Okay, that's good. We can do that. Listen, open platform here. You are more than welcome to come back and let me know, because we definitely want to let our people know. But let us know this though, honestly. What are some of the biggest obstacles that you faced in doing this? Because we see the success, we see the glory, but we really don't know always the story. So what were some of the biggest challenges that you actually faced?
Oh my gosh, the biggest challenges, for one of my biggest regrets probably is that I did not go to school for commercial real estate. So I had to learn from scratch, understanding the financial aspects of commercial real estate and hotels. So that was a hurdle. So that was a learning curve. So it took me a little while to kind of understand that process and understanding the financing part. Another hurdle was I got told a lot of no's because I was young. Not even really because I was Black. It was just because I was young. I had to, once I believed in myself and once I told myself yes, and I didn't listen to the no's and I just kept going. And I just overcame that hurdle and I became laser focused. I mean, laser focused. You can ask my friends and family, if you weren't gonna help me get to my hotel, it was nothing but talk about. I was truly focused. And because one of my biggest regrets is that I told my grandmother that I was gonna buy a hotel. And she never got a chance to check into my hotel. And so when she passed, it just dawned on me. And I said, I have to buy a hotel before February 6th. And that's her birthday. And I didn't stop. And we closed November 1st, 2020. Wow. So that was before her birthday. Yep.
So what was that feeling like for you? Because make that promise, to fulfill that promise, what's that like for you?
Well, I got an old school grandma, so I heard her voice and she said, about time. So that feeling, it was a humble.
Right.
She was still being humbling on the other side.
Right.
But it was a great feeling, and I understood what she meant I didn't understand what she meant about generational wealth until after she passed, until after my son was born. You know, because she always told me it's best to keep a paid off house in the family so somebody always have a place to stay. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna take it to the next level and make sure that I have at least one paid off hotel in the family. So that way, not only will somebody always have a place to stay, but somebody always will have a place for income coming in, as well as creating jobs for family members.
That's awesome. That's an awesome testimony. And to do this and to be a millennial, what advice do you give? I mean, to somebody out there that's watching, and because the hardest thing sometimes is just getting started. I think when you think about putting it together and doing what you do, a lot of people will say, listen, I don't have this, I don't have that. They'll talk about what they don't have versus what they do have.
Just do it. I mean, just do it. I've realized, I mean, that's what happened with me. I just did it. You'll figure it out along the way. You're going to make a mistake. I realized the folks that stopped them, it has to be just right. The timing is right. Me, I just do it, right? It does help. The more and more you just do it, the more and more you start planning. So I do plan more now, but you just have to do it. There's no way around it. I know people who've been telling me about their dreams 10 years ago. They're still telling me about it, you know, and I'm like, oh, okay, great, you know. It's just at this point, it's like, okay,
everybody's got a dream.
Everybody got a dream, but you know, you gotta, you know, like my dad used to say, dreams don't pay bills. So, you know, you gotta, you just have to do it. And so that's that. So my recommendation and my advice for anyone is to just do it and follow your purpose. It's a lot going on about, you know, money and quick money and entrepreneurship. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Stay in your lane. You know, I'd like to use this analogy, your story. You know how cars, when you move over to the left and right, you start hitting other folks. But when you stay in your lane, you get to your destination. You get to your destination safely. And so that's the main goal, right? So don't worry about what anybody else is doing. Just stay true to yourself, stay focused, and follow your purpose. The money will come.
After a while.
It'll come. It really would. When people used to tell me that, I didn't believe it. And I was like, oh my gosh, they are so right.
There it is. And here it is coming. So I want to thank you for being with us here on the Social Justice Forums. Again, listen, when I talk about an inspiration, and somebody that we can learn from. And when you think that you can't get it done, here's an inspiring story of somebody who's getting it done and helping others to do it. So please check out her information that you have and that you see on our social media platforms, and then also right here on this show. Listen, we're out of time for this episode of the Social Justice Forums. I want to thank you for joining us. Listen, we're going to come back next week, elevate the conversation, bring you some more exciting guests, promote civic engagement and civic awareness. Until next time we meet, Daren, Jaime saying take care, God bless, and we'll talk to you soon.